Hey everyone, I wanted to create a video to kind of go over some of the terms with this first unit. Hopefully you'll have a better understanding. I think some of them are pretty easy and maybe a review for a lot of you, but others you may not really be familiar with and may need some examples. So that's kind of the goal of this video. I'm a little sick, but I want to make sure that I get this video put up so that I can help explain some things for you. So as far as the definition of health, I think that when we think of health, we think of just our physical health, it's really important. Physical health is super big deal, but it's more than that. It's involving our mental and emotional health, our spiritual health, our social health, and so we'll kind of get into some of those things in this PowerPoint. Wellness is like your overall state. So if you're pretty healthy in each of those categories that I just mentioned, then you can pretty much consider yourself as being well. This second bullet, basically by practicing, what that means by practicing good health habits, it means that we have this mentality in society like, well, what's in it for me? That's kind of what this bullet is. Like an example is like if you don't feel like flossing and brushing is going to prevent cavities or oral health, like help you stay healthy in that sense, then you're not going to do it. If you don't think that wearing your seatbelt is going to save your life if you get into a crash, then you're probably not going to do it. So by practicing health habits, you have to believe that it's going to benefit you in some way. So that's what that means. We'll kind of skim through the physical one because I feel like we all understand the physical part of our health. But just know that like our bodies are amazing. When some pathogen enters our body, you know, our immune system is going to kick in and fight whatever that is because it's going to recognize that most of the time as an invader. So like the different systems of our body are working together to try and keep us at a healthy state. Mental and emotional, this I think a lot of us can probably agree is becoming a big issue today, our mental health. But if we can individually try and focus on and make sure that we're working towards being mentally and emotionally healthy ourselves, and I think that it really starts there, is in ourselves. But basically your self-esteem, how you like, accept, and feel about yourself, how you relate to others, there's the bell there. How you meet the demands of everyday life, how you use your mind to develop thinking skills. Meeting the demands, that kind of sounds like, I mean, some of you are like, well, yeah, you know, but some people really struggle, like just getting out of bed. There's a lot of mental illnesses that affect people every day, which also brings up a good point I wanted to make, is like, just the golden rule, like treating others how we want to be treated, or you know, that kind of thing. Like you'd never know what someone's going through. I think especially these days because you can't necessarily tell. It's not like someone is labeled with their mental illness, you know. Social health. This is another part of our health triangle. Just how you get along with others, being able to make and keep friends. That kind of sounds weird, but really like you need to look into yourself and like, are you able to make friends and then you lose them the next week? Like, what are you doing? You know, are you doing things that are going to help you to keep those friends and those relationships? I think that you start at a pretty early age with working and playing in cooperative ways. I don't know if you've got younger siblings, maybe back in preschool. Communication is becoming a huge thing. It's always been an issue, you know, in relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but any relationship. And so we need to make sure we're working on being effective communicators and respectfully sharing our opinions, and respecting like others' opinions when they share them with us. It goes both ways, and that kind of falls into like the showing respect for others as well. Sorry if it sounds like I'm cruising through this. I don't want to make too long of a video because I know that you guys don't want to listen to a half-hour video, so we're going to keep cruising. Your spiritual health. So one thing I want to point out with this is that this does not necessarily mean that you go to church. I mean, it can involve that, but really it's just that feeling of interconnectedness with yourself, others, the universal energy, having that belief that your being here has some kind of meaning and purpose. So that's what spiritual health is. The health continuum, if you think about like premature death, you know, that's premature. You die before you're supposed to. You know, a 55-year-old male is probably not supposed to die at 55 years old. That would be considered premature death. So there are things we do every single day, or don't do every single day, that's going to move us to this side or to this side of the health continuum. You really need to make sure you understand the health continuum, because this will be on your test. So please make sure you understand all of this. You know, you want to make sure you're at the high level of health and wellness. You know, as you're kind of moving towards that, you're going to start to be free from your aches and pains. But, I mean, if you think about it, like, you start getting into substance abuse or whatever, like, that can take you here quick. That can actually take you right here, like, in an instant. Some people don't realize the dangers in that. Like, first time you decide to use drugs, like, you could die. It's a possibility. All right, moving on to lifestyle factors. These are basically things you do or don't do every day that are going to affect your health. You know, what way is it going to move you on the health continuum? That's something you can maybe start to even think about and ask yourself, like, will doing this or not doing this move me to the right, high level of wellness, or to the left, premature death? I'm not saying that, like, getting 2 hours of sleep is going to, like, move you super close to premature death, but you just kind of have to make that decision, and, like, oh, well, it's going to eventually, if you continue to do those certain behaviors. And then with Larry H. Miller, so the reason I have this slide is Larry H. Miller died prematurely. He died from type 2 diabetes, which is actually based a lot on your lifestyle factors. The things that, you know, you do or don't do every day, which we'll go over in the next slide. But basically, he was a very wealthy, very successful businessman, and yet he still died prematurely because while he was very generous and he helped other people, his money didn't buy his health. He didn't take care of himself. So those lifestyle factors, the main ones from our book, are getting enough sleep. I know that's a huge issue for students. I understand that. But really, like, if that's you, if you're getting like 4 and 5 hours of sleep, that's not healthy, especially for a growing teenager. You need sleep. And if you are getting 4 or 5 hours, maybe set some goals. Like, try to prioritize some stuff. I mean, like, move things around. Try to really evaluate, like, what's going on. Why are you only getting that much sleep? And if it's for a medical reason, then make sure you're seeing a doctor about that. A lot of students that I talk to in my classes, they don't even eat breakfast. I don't know if you guys realize this, but, like, that's food equals fuel. Like, if you're not eating, you're not fueling your body, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to have that energy to go throughout your day, especially if you're not eating until, like, noon. Like, that's an issue. Now make sure you understand that you need to have a healthy breakfast. You think about it like, if you go to bed, and let's say ideally, let's say you get your 8 hours, and then you get up and you still don't eat, you're essentially fasting for, you know, if it's not until like noon, think of how many hours you're fasting. You're not going without food, and if you do that all the time, that's not healthy for you. Eating a variety of nutritious foods, I have variety in there because different foods give us different nutrients. So we need to make sure we're getting a variety so that we're getting the different vitamins and minerals and different essential nutrients in our bodies. Abstain, stay away from, avoid using tobacco products. We'll see it again down here, alcohol, other drugs. Being physically active for 30 to 60 minutes a day, and then maintaining a healthy weight. A lot of people probably think this means just don't be overweight, but there are definitely people that are underweight, which can also be very unhealthy as well. Life expectancy is the average number of years a group is expected to live. Kind of interesting, a study was done that showed that this generation of teenagers is the first that's not expected to outlive their parents. What that means is, like, if your parents live to be 85, you're not expected to live to be 85. And the overall reason for that was obesity. And of course, there's a lot of subcategories in this, like the technology and things that I think technology alone is keeping people inside and sitting and not being active. So if that's you, take a good look at your life and try to reevaluate, see how you can continue to move right on the health continuum. Quality of life is the level of health and satisfaction a person has in being alive. Kind of cruise through some of these because I think you guys understand these. Prevention, I think you get this one, taking steps to keep something from happening or getting worse. Going back to a slide earlier, you know, if you decide to floss and brush your teeth, that's preventing, right? You're preventing cavities or bad oral health. A health literate person, basically what health literacy means is that you understand health services that are out in your community and you use those health services to better your health. And that could be like a range from, one could even argue like parks and stuff being a health service, because it's, you know, you can go and get exercise or activity in a park, or like clinics, you know, going to a clinic nearby. But if you're health literate, then these 4 bullet points should describe you. And I think this one's a big one. An effective communicator. Risk factors are actions or behaviors that represent a potential health threat. So just think about things that could be a threat to your health that might move you to the left on the health continuum. Cumulative risk. This is something that a lot of students don't understand. So I'm going to give you 2 examples. The first one, let's say that you decide that you don't want to wear your seatbelt. So you start to drive without your seatbelt, and then you get a text. So you look at that text, but you also have your soda from, I don't know, your favorite soda place in your hand, and you're taking a drink, you know, from that. Like, each of those is risky in itself, but adding them together is where that cumulative risk comes in. So if you still don't understand, let me give you another one. So let's say that you love the Baconator at Wendy's. And so you go after school today, or I don't know, whenever you're watching this, you go after school to go and get your Baconator meal. You even make it a meal with fries and a drink. That's not gonna kill you. But if you're doing that like for every meal, every single day, that's the cumulative risk. Okay, so maybe like every once in a while, which moderation is a huge word that I hope that you guys understand in this class. Moderation is key. Like, once in a while, it's not going to hurt you. But if you're doing it all the time, that's where it becomes an issue. Abstinence is not just avoiding sexual activity before marriage. You know, abstaining is avoiding harmful, or just staying away from, or, you know, avoiding in general. But abstinence in this class is avoiding high-risk behaviors. That can include more than just the sexual activity before marriage. And I hope you understand the high-risk behavior, like the connection with sexual activity before marriage. Because, I mean, not only like pregnancy, you know, that could be risky, and, you know, the possibility of pregnancy, but there are diseases out there, and you'll learn about some of those in this class. But peers, people the same age who share a similar range of interests. Goals, something you aim for that takes planning and work. I'm just going to say right now that, like, if you don't write your goals down, you're most likely not going to accomplish them. Something, I don't know what it is, but something about writing down your goal and then like actually putting it somewhere where you can see it, that just makes it more real. I know for me that happened. I wrote down I wanted to qualify for and run the Boston Marathon, and I tried and I failed, and I was just gonna say, okay, I tried, I'm good. And that note that I wrote it on a sticky note. It was like ingrained in my mind, and I couldn't let it go. And so I tried again after hard training, and I was able to qualify and run it. So I really truly believe that writing goals down, specific goals, can help you achieve them. Values or beliefs and standards of conduct that you find important. What are things that you find important? Do you value your relationships? Do you value money? Do you value education? I don't know. Do you value family? Okay, so like or even like things like do you value respect and honesty? Those kinds of things. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of values. These are kind of, I feel like these should be a review for you. Heredity are the things that are passed on, traits that are passed on from your parents. So like your hair color, eye color, your body, the build of your body, but also like things you can't control, or other things you can't control, like diseases. So diseases and things can be passed on through parents and grandparents as well. And then, of course, your environment is your sum total of your surroundings, your family, where you live, your experiences. There's different kinds of environment. You've got your social environment, the people in your life, your culture. I think a lot of times people think of culture as being race, which it can be, but notice everything else in this little definition. Let's say you're on the swim team, or you play tennis, or you do debate, or whatever. Like, there's a culture there because you guys have collective beliefs. So that's a culture. Or even like in your group of friends, your social group. And then, of course, your physical environment. I think that's usually what we think of when we think of environment. Cool. So hopefully that gives you guys a better understanding of these terms, and I would just suggest that you make sure you know these, because they will probably, hint, hint, come up on a test or quiz. Actually, you're going to have a quiz about these, so I would just make sure that you know them. I'll just tell you right now. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any questions.